Ta-da! Audio is fixed, I hope. Can you hear me now? That's, tell us you haven't done a stream in a while without telling us you haven't done a stream in a while. Let me start again. What up, everybody, and welcome to Late Night Live. Whoa, Late Night Live number 126. Sorry for the super long delay. I feel like it's been like almost a month since we've had a stream. It's been some time for sure. It's nice to see everybody. What up, Ojasuni? What's going on, Skeet? Hello, Jay. Life is crazy right now. If you guys could see, I know I've said this before, if you guys could see my apartment right now, as many of you know, I'm rebuilding a unit to go back here behind me. It's been on the go for way too long, but my apartment's not very big. It's only 10 feet wide in my living room, and that I have a big 10-foot by 2 feet deep, 10-foot long board that's going to be a desktop that unfortunately is a little warped, so it's going to have to be replaced eventually, but whatever. I'm building the unit with this one, and then I'll deal with that later. But like in front of me is my desk, and then there's my little couch, and then there's this giant board on sawhorses taking up just all of the space. I had to like climb under it when I was watering plants and stuff today. It's crazy, and doing the clear coating and whatnot on that, and the shelves to go back here. But it's chaotic. But what fun is life if not a little filled with a little bit of chaos? Let's do some writing, shall we? I don't really have a game plan today. I'm just gonna doodle. I'm gonna doodle along. If anybody has any requests or questions, or as always, feel free to ask them. Chaos Home of Renovations. I feel you, Ojaswini. It's gonna be crazier once I finish, because the boards are all stained. Once the stain, or once the clear coat is done, that's what I'm doing now. I had to do the stain outside because it reeks. Luckily, the clear coat is not super chemically smelling, so the clear coat I can do indoors, since it's winter outside now in Canada. Even though winter feels like it's a little late this year. Winter should have been here by now, and it's far too sunny and nice to be Canada in the winter. But once that's done, then I have to find some way to paint all of the pipe, which I'm halfway through cleaning and degreasing all of the pipes so that I can paint the pipe. I won't be doing that indoors. Sorry, Marilyn. I will, paint the pipe, and then somehow, because all that stuff has to stay there, even like the 2 drawer units are over here. I can't open my file cabinet right now because there's 2 drawer units beside me that will eventually go behind me. But then I have to find somewhere for all of this stuff to go. All of the books and the binders and the drawers full of stuff over here. That all has to live somewhere else for a bit because this wall is being painted. So it's gonna be even more chaotic. I'm gonna see, hopefully I can keep streams and whatnot going as I do that, but it's gonna be a little madness for a little bit in my apartment. The later the better. I mean, that's not necessarily true, because if it's later then it's gonna last longer, and I'm not a fan of having winter stay until April and May. I would love for it to finish in March, or even sooner, but yeah. Happy Thanksgiving to all of my American friends in the chat. Hello, Olivia. Welcome, welcome. Okay, let's write. I'm chatty today. What we got in here today? We got a Leonard Principle, I believe a sharpened one, but it's one I've been using for a while, so I don't know if the tines are aligned super good or if it's still all that sharp. So what's everybody been up to? I haven't talked to many of you very much in the past quite a while, it feels like. We haven't had a stream. And then I've been preoccupied as of late. I do want to thank any and everybody who's been still posting and sharing stuff on the Discord. I know I have been a little bit distant lately, and for that I apologize. Please know that I do see and enjoy everything that goes on there. I have just been a little brain busy, so I have not been commenting as much as I normally would. Focusing on getting this living situation sorted. Very, very excited to show everybody everything when it's finished and I can finally do like a, call it a studio tour or something like that, which I've never really done in this apartment since moving in here. 40 plus or minus 1. I like that. Ah, Marilyn has joined the world of iPad calligraphy. It's an enjoyable rabbit hole to fall down, so I've heard. Hello, Sea Consciousness. Welcome, welcome. I do not know any Twitch calligrapher streamers or really any Twitch streamers at all. That's cool. Oof. Is that a hair? I want to test out some new paper today. Hello, Gagneet. Welcome, welcome. That's good to know, Marilyn. Thank you for the recommendation. Like old Canadian nice. I love that. I like that that's a thing. Hooray for old Canadian nice. Yeah, we're gonna get warmed up here a little bit, and then I want to test out some paper that I bought yesterday. Oh, you can't see it. It's out of frame. So as everybody knows, or you guys probably know, the black paper that I use now, I think it's the second best black paper I've ever used, but it's not A4, it's 8.5 by 11, so it is my favorite to use. It is the Recollections 24-pound paper from Michaels that is new there, and they also have like a white and a cream and a craft, and they have some colored ones as well. Now, my local Michaels down the street from my apartment does not have any of the colored ones, but they did have the ivory, or like the cream, I guess they call it, and the craft. I'm curious. Cream, I feel like, will be pretty good. It's a little darker of a cream color than I wish. I wish it was a little bit lighter. And then the craft is craft, like the darker brown craft color. I don't know if that one's gonna... I'm curious if it just looks like craft paper, or if it's actually made up like craft paper and is not gonna feel very good to write on. We will see. Yes, I can definitely show you the outer packaging. I haven't even opened them yet. So I'll fully open them from the packaging on camera today so you'll be able to see everything. I was there picking up some more black paper because I didn't want to run out. I'm always nervous that it's like a seasonal thing or that they're not going to be a permanent sort of situation in Michaels because they're a new thing and they're not a cardstock, they're just a paper. So I don't know if they're, I don't know if they're going to be there forever. So I bought some more of the black paper. Then I figured while I was there, since it was 2 for 1, I picked up a pack of the cream and a pack of the craft as well. They had the white. I opted out of buying any of the white just because for white paper it's pretty expensive, I guess. Compared to if I can buy like a ream of 500 or something somewhere. I may eventually try some of the white. They did have the white. I just didn't buy any to try. Maybe should have, but I talked myself out of it while I was there. I feel like I've heard too many mixed reviews on the HP Premium 32. Like sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not good. Hello, Jan. Welcome. Yeah, like I've heard mixed reviews where sometimes it bleeds. I know it is really, really smooth. I do feel like it might feel a little bit too smooth, to me, but I'm willing to give it a shot. It's also, if I remember correctly, because I have used it before, it's on the thicker side, and I like my, I like thinner writing paper. Hello, Abjeet. Good evening. or good whatever time it is for you. I mean, that's one of the main reasons I like this black paper so much. Aside from the fact that it's smooth but not too smooth, it's thin. There's some really good black cardstocks to write on, but they're so thick. And I just have trouble doing practice on thicker cardstock or expensive cardstock, expensive paper, when it's just like this, when I'm just essentially scribbling or practice writing. Good evening, Mom. How was my trip? My trip was amazing. My trip was awesome. It was very, very busy, but in a good way busy. The itinerary was very full with a lot of really awesome stuff. I feel like it took me a good, I guess it's a week today since I've been back. I feel like it's taken me like a good week to really get back to life. Not because of jet lag or anything like that. For those of you who know me well, know that I don't agree with jet lag. I was awake and I was totally fine, but just mentally wrapping my head around being back home, traveling overseas again after such a long time was incredible. This was my first trip overseas since COVID, going from the extreme of traveling like at least half the year before COVID, until absolutely nothing, with the exception of the US, but I don't really consider the US international. But yeah, this was my first trip overseas. It just felt incredible. It kind of felt like myself again, which is great. And then getting to see and explore the Mont Blanc house in Hamburg was incredible. I'm putting together a little just like recap video. It is late, but I'm gonna get that out there just to show everybody sort of what it was like and to show the place. It was incredible. I was in Hamburg for the first half of the trip with Mont Blanc. I was teaching a class at the Mont Blanc house, and then I got a tour of the Mont Blanc house with them. And then for the second half of the trip, I went to Berlin with my buddy Adam and spent some time at his tattoo shop doing tattooing. There's the the grapefruit that I tattooed while I was there. It is super dark though. I put it in my oven to sort of slowly try to dry it out so that it wouldn't mold and it would dry, but I think I turned the heat up a little too high. It was still really low, but it ended up cooking the skin a little bit, so it's not fully dry yet. But I took it out of the oven, and then I'm just letting it sit to see if it naturally dries. Like this is an example of, well, it's pretty rough looking. I can't focus on this, or is it too close to the cap? There we go. So this was from Scriptorium Berlin. Oh, I didn't put a year on this one, but this was from back in, I can't remember. This would have been 2018, I think. Put that down there for now. 2018, 2019 maybe. But yeah, a little bit of tattoo practice and then hanging out with him and his family. That was more of the vacation side of the trip. It was wonderful. We were potentially going to plan an event on the weekend I was there, but it was quite busy. So we didn't. We just hung out. We wrote a ton though. Him and I spent like an entire day just at his kitchen table, writing and writing and writing, which was amazing. Oops. Snip, snap. I knew that was gonna happen. My hand started to go this way. Oopsies. There are always classes coming up with my blog. I have none scheduled at this point in time, but we're working to get another one up into the mix. I don't know what topic it will be, but yes, we are working to get something up there, but I don't have anything in the calendar or on the calendar quite yet. Next. Trying to see what things that I can teach that people would be most interested in. Hello, Annie. Long time no see indeed. Oops, lock focus. There we go. Teach roller coaster design. You mean flourishing design? I could do that. That one would make sense, I guess. It's good to be writing live, Annie. It's been a very long time. How small am I writing? It's not that tiny today. My average is usually like just under 2 millimeters of an X height. Usually. Let's see. Millimeters. Yeah, it's like just over 1, I guess. It's under 2. Like if we see here, 2 millimeters would be, I mean, it's close to 2, I guess. That would be 2. And these letters, I think, are a little bit smaller than that. It'd be like 1 and 1.75, perhaps. That's my natural size. 1 and a bit, yeah. I need to, for doing, I'm words, bleh. I'm wanting to practice my business penmanship a little more. I came home from Germany quite invigorated to use my fountain pens and whatnot. Obviously, because that's why I was there. And with my fountain pens, I enjoy writing business penmanship. So I would like my business penmanship to be better. I've also been quite inspired by Eric, Practice Makes Penman's posts lately. He's been replicating business penmanship signatures from back in the day and creating some of his own combinations and whatnot. And his work has been quite inspiring. I have never given business penmanship the time, attention, and I've studied it a lot, but I don't write it nearly as much as I should, specifically the capital letters. And I'm wanting to get into that. And to get into that, I'm going to have to start writing a little bit bigger, to my dismay. But that's okay. 2mm feels like full 2mm feels like that's probably around 2mm, and to me that feels huge. It's not really huge, but it feels quite big. That's business penmanship. That's sort of the size that I need to start getting more comfortable writing at that larger size, I think. I think. And to smooth out my movement and whatnot, also, I think for business penmanship, I would want my page to be at about this angle. Specifically, when I do ornamental penmanship, I'll explain that actually. I don't know if I've talked about that much before. When I do ornamental penmanship, I like my paper to be at this angle because it's the best angle for me personally to get decent shaped ascenders and getting good shades on my capitals and whatnot. But the one issue that happens is when I go from one side of the page, just naturally my arm to the other, this is sort of the angle that my arm goes at. You can see it's diagonal from where my baseline is right now. So for business penmanship, I would probably want to turn my page more in line with the angle of my arm. Not necessarily exactly in line, but if it's in line, then I can go farther across the page to at least half or even more without needing to move the page so much. But in ornamental penmanship, since we stop so much, since we pause and we lift so much, I can do a word, move, a word, move my page, a word, lift, reset, and whatnot. So I don't have to try to do a long word. If I do a long word, like what happened when I did medium here at this line, to write minimum, just with lowercase letters all in one, I would go up at that sort of an angle. Whereas if I go at this angle, what happens is I start having to pull sideways with my arm, and I run out of movement. The hand wants to like twist and rotate to get there. It would be awesome if I could do, or if ornamental penmanship felt as good at say this angle, but it just doesn't for me personally when I do my shades and whatnot, or and for my ascenders and certain shades. Certain shades feel better at that angle, but I don't know if I'm one of the only ones who prefers a different angle for ornamental penmanship for my paper than business penmanship. Not really sure. My favorite place. I mean, I was very, very impressed with the Mont Blanc house. And just getting to tour the Mont Blanc facility was incredible. I'd never been, sorry, there's sirens outside. I'd never been to a pen manufacturing facility before, so I didn't really know what to expect. But Mont Blanc is a large company, so I was somewhat expecting like a factory type of situation, sort of more of a mass-produced type of feel. Lots of pens going out all around the world, big automated factory, but is quite small in the best way possible. And for example, just in the nib room, like where the nib gets the tipping material and where the nibs are ground and where the slits are cut and everything, seeing those machines and seeing the people that use them, how it's way more, I guess, for lack of a better term, handmade than I would have ever imagined. And it increased my respect for the company. I mean, I didn't disrespect them before, I obviously love them, but my sort of respect for them has grown like exponentially. did we meet Willy Wonka of Penn? I met the one of the, if there was like a Willy Wonka of the Nib sort of world, then yes, I met that guy at Mont Blanc, which was amazing. And just so many people who'd been like, we met one person who'd been there for like 40 years, and just hearing and seeing them work, yeah, it was incredible. It was really dope. So that was, I mean, as far as places, that was the reason for the trip. That was the main place that I went. It wasn't really it wasn't a tourist traveling and going to see new things type of trip. I went to Hamburg, which was new, and that was sort of the reason for the trip. And then in Berlin, I've been to Berlin many times, staying with my buddy Adam and his family, hanging out at his tattoo shop. I think I said in a previous stream or in something somewhere, might have been actually during my Mont Blanc class. I can't remember. No, it wasn't during my Mont Blanc class. My favorite pizza place, Italian pizza place, is in Berlin, randomly. It's called Il Ritrovo, and I love it. It's down the street from the tattoo shop, so we got to go there. And then also, one of my favorite little lunch spots there is a place called Hot Dog Soup, and it's literally soup and a hot dog, but it's so delicious and really, really good. So I got to eat there, which was awesome. So that one was sort of like it felt like home. Like I got to go there and do all of my like regular things, which was cool. Yeah, it was great. Ooh, that's a nice eye. I've started falling in love with this variation of the ending T. That's the one I use most of the time. But recently, you see it in business penmanship a lot, but I've started really like using it for ornamental penmanship as well. There. Either lifting for that little cross, whoops, and up, or just retracing all the way back up again. Quite a fan of it. Quite a fan indeed. Is it a star? Oh, you totally make a star. Oh, you mean, so you do like that? Is that a star? That looks like a capital A. A little miniature capital A. It's funny how things in penmanship, I feel that, Marilyn, when you say, I saw somebody do it that way once and now I can't stop. I'm the exact same way with the lowercase y that just ends with a very tiny shade. I use it more than I use a regular descended y now. I like all the time. There it is in Truly, in Enjoy, it's up, well, you can't see it, but Enjoy up there I use it. It's become just the go-to one, or the go-to variation that I use. Ooh, and he has a question. In OP, where do you shade the capital W? Is there a right and wrong way to do it? I like it more with a fuller shade rather than the shade at the bottom. So, I don't like to say there's a right or wrong way. It is a stem shade. So if you're doing the capital W, sorry, get my paper over here. Whoops, that's an ugly shade. That's better. So keeping the shade on the lower half, that would be what I would say is the right way. Now, there were penmen back in the day that would do this stem shade differently. There were some penmen that would have it be very asymmetrical. There were other penmen that would have it be much more rounded out, sort of I'm somewhere kind of in the middle, the way I like it to look. And then there are penmen that would potentially start it a little bit higher, so it ends up looking a little more like an indirect oval shade. So if you were to do a W with an indirect oval shade, okay, we'll turn this into a W first. Ha! Or we won't touch down. There we go. If we were to do a W, I'm assuming what you're asking is it okay to do one with a reversed oval shade, which would be something like this. Whoops. So that's where we have the shade going entirely from top to bottom. It's not the most symmetrical, perfect one. That would be considered, like in a class, in a teaching environment, that is something that if I saw this and I was, I guess, grading homework or something like that, I would encourage you to start lower, because the W is supposed to be a capital stem, not an oval shade. Now, could it be an oval shade? If you like it better that way, then I can't say don't do it that way. If you like it better that way, do it that way. But traditionally, it would be lower. I would say if you prefer the look of it this way, you could try to go more similar to, do just like a slow one. So the shade is still, you can see here, we have, our shade is still at the bottom, but because we're not traveling super far to the left, we don't get that really asymmetrical look. It kind of still feels a little more like an oval shade, which you can do, like even in, say, PZ Blozer's Lessons in Ornamental PZ Blozer's Lessons in Ornamental Penmanship. A lot of those stem shades they cut off, to me, too soon. I'm not a huge fan of how they cut off. I would like them to extend a little bit more. That's just my personal preference. But some of those sort of do more of this type of a look. But like I said, whichever way you like better. Don't be surprised if you do one with an oval stem, or with an oval shade. Somebody may tell you that it's incorrect, because technically by the book it is. It's not the correct form, but so long as it's what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do this stem and it ends up being an oval stem, then your muscles aren't listening to you and you have to train. But do I have a link to PZ Blozer's Lessons in Ornamental Penmanship? Do I? It's on archive.org. I don't have a link really quickly, and I don't want to open my Chrome to search one real quick. Yogg-Saron, just to touch on what you said there. So, yes, in traditional Spencerian by the book, like what is in the new Spencerian Compendium, you get those shades that are more like an oval shade that have that little whoop in them. That is traditional Spencerian. She specifically had asked about ornamental penmanship. Because in traditional Spencerian, yes, you would get a shade like that going into some of the stem strokes. Which is why most people who do ornamental penmanship tend to drift away from traditional Spencerian because for me personally, I like the shade on the bottom. And I like big shades also. But yes, that was a normal thing in traditional Spencerian, but not so much in ornamental penmanship. There were probably penmen that did it. Somebody else could potentially quote and know an example of somebody who did it. I know just with the nature of rapid writing in general, there would be people who would write, say, a W. If I did a few different a few different W's, like even that, it starts a little bit above half. This is still asymmetrical, so it's on the lower half, but there are more than likely examples out there that have something more like this, which is shaded more like an oval shade, top to bottom. And that's why I say, if you like it, do it. In general, there is no right or wrong, unless you're trying to do something that is specific and by the book. Like if you say, I want to do traditional perfect Spencerian, then there's a way that I would instruct you to do it. Or if you're just like in grosser script, if you want to do a specific clean and grosser script, there's a specific way. Ornamental penmanship is artistic expression, so I feel like the right and wrongs very much go out the window. Yes, that is a very good observation, Annie. Lupfer's examples, Lupfer specimens, I won't say he's my favorite penman, because he did, you could say, lack. I don't think he lacked, but most of his writing is very almost like clerical, may not be the right word, but he wrote very, very clean, very, very precise. So the reason I like his work so much is if I can perfect his precise, clean work, like when I think ornamental penmanship, he's sort of what I think of. And then from there, that's where you can then add artistic expression and add changes and tweaks and whatnot, and that's where you can drift off into something more like Mataraz or something more like Berensmeyer or things like that. Now that's not specifically how those people trained, and they didn't specifically try to write like Lupfer, because some of them came before Lupfer, or yeah, around the same time, where they weren't necessarily trained by him. But I've always liked the idea of being able to do a precise thing that lacks sort of style or character, which sounds horrible because his writing doesn't lack character, but when you compare it to like Mataraz, it does lack character. It seems borderline boring. But then if I can do the boring one, then I can add character to it. In theory, my writing will look like my writing. It won't look like Mataraz's writing, or it won't look like Berensmeyer's writing. There's a reason we can tell the difference, because they look like theirs. So I'm not trying to replicate theirs. I'm trying to replicate my own. And the foundation of my own is Lupfer's. I'm not to the point where I can do it as cleanly as I want or add the artistic elements that I want yet. But yeah, that is a good observation. Oh, thank you very much, Zero. It's very much how I've always thought about writing in general. It's what's drawn me to ornamental penmanship so much. When I got started writing, Many people know I wrote very slowly before I dove into movement writing and rapid ornamental penmanship. I wrote quite a bit slower, and that's when I learned how to flourish and learned how to design my flourishes and whatnot. And I take a lot of pride in the fact that my flourishes, when I draw them and write them, don't necessarily really look like anybody else's. Like Michael Sull, who was one of my teachers, one of my very good teachers, and worked with me a lot. When I flourish, it doesn't look like Mike. Can I replicate his style when I flourish? Yes. But I like that Mike Sull's flourishes look like Mike Sull's flourishes. There's nobody else on the planet that flourishes like him. His work is incredible and it looks like him. I want the same thing for my own work. And I feel like in my design work, when I design signatures and whatnot, that exists. I have that. I don't have that yet in the ornamental penmanship writing side of things. I have it in the design side of things, but hoping I can merge those two worlds at some point. I mean, Annie, you're not bad to like Blozer's style of writing. Blozer was incredible. I'm assuming you mean E.W. Blozer. Blozer was probably he's one of my favorites. There's just, I feel like not as much of his work out there for me to sort of study the body of it and really get his character. And I guess the main reason like I've already mentioned, I stick to Lupfer because, that's the image I have in my head is his forms, because when I look at ornamental penmanship, I see him as like he's the model. That's the model alphabet. And then everything that differs from that is variations and styles. Is that true for everybody? Absolutely not. That's just how I see it. Ooh, good question, Jan. What paper do I prefer to write practice on? So if I'm writing like today, for example, I guess I go back and forth between black and white paper. When I'm writing on black paper, this is my favorite paper to write on. This is Recollections paper from Michaels. Here, I will show in a second. Or actually, I've been writing for a bit now. Maybe we'll dive into the paper testing portion of today's stream after I take a sip of tea, because I forgot I had tea. I think it would be cool if more people gravitated or sort of fell in love with like Platt Roger Spencer's style. It was very unique and very different from like what I do in ornamental penmanship. It would be a good exercise for me to go back and sort of work on and learn his style as well, because it was very different. And there are enough examples of it, especially with some of the scrapbooks that have been scanned now. We have plenty of samples of his work, of his writing. Then it's because I feel like his writing was different than like the traditional Spencerian. Yeah, there's so many things to study and learn, so many styles, so many variations, not enough time. Okay, so the paper I'm writing on right now, I'm going to zoom out here a little bit. plastic doesn't reflect too much. So this is the paper I am using today. Or this is what I use for most of my practice when I'm writing on black paper. Recently, I just discovered this, a couple months ago? It's new at Michael's. It is Recollections paper. They have, I believe it's 60 pound or 64 pound, 60 pound. They have cardstock, which is also really good. As far as the black, I know the navy blue doesn't take ink quite as well as the black, but the black takes ink really well, and the 60 pound is just a little bit thicker. So I use that for. Oh, do I have any here? Well, these ones are white ones. Do I have black ones? Yeah. So if I'm doing, say, name cards or something like that, these are all just cut out of the 60 pound Recollections paper because the surface is nice and smooth and works really well with white ink. So I use 24 pound black paper for practice. And then the other paper that I use is, I don't have the packaging or anything because I got it in a big ream. My cream or my ivory and white paper, it's technically called natural. The natural, which is the ivory, and the white that I use is a VIA Smooth, VIA Smooth. I believe it's 24 pound writing paper from Mohawk makes it. It is a little more toothy, so people who like a smoother paper probably wouldn't like it. I know some fountain pen people aren't a huge fan of it because it has a little bit more tooth to it. But today, I've never tested this out. It's darker cream than I wish it was, but I picked this up, yesterday at Michael's, 24 pound Recollections paper in a cream, and it says solid core, which I don't know what that means specifically. The black says solid core, the craft says solid core. The white, since Skeet mentioned the white earlier, the white doesn't say solid core. It does say acid and lignin free, but it doesn't say solid core. I don't know how that changes anything. Is it expensive? It was 2 for 1 for me. It was $11 Canadian for this. I guess 13 after taxes and whatnot. So that's like $10 American, something like that. And I got 2 of them for that price, so $5 or $6 each. But it is more expensive, which is why I didn't get the white. The cream, I was just curious. I probably wouldn't buy it for practice all the time, because with my practice paper, I like to buy big reams of. Oh, that's the expensive one. Oh. I feel like that's more. Well, that's 100 pound. That's cardstock. That's cover paper. That's not the one you want, Marilyn. You don't want 100 pound. That's super thick. You want the 24 pound. It'll actually be smooth writing paper. It'll be called. Okay, Recollections. Put this off to the side, and we'll give it a test. I just realized I'm writing with white ink today, and this is a light paper, so I'm gonna have to get some black ink here real quick. Luckily, it's never that far away. Oh, my left hand is sore from. I just realized it when I was squeezing the jar to open it from holding the paint can when I'm clear coating the boards. Make my my hand is tired gripping onto a paint can. As always, clean the inside of the lid, clean the inside of the jar. Best habit to get into, in my opinion, or one of the best habits for sure for a penman or a calligrapher. There we go. It just helps, keeps things clean. Ooh, so this paper is nice and light. And let's see how she works. Please take ink good. Oh, let me zoom in again, sorry. £80 is also too heavy. That's like thick cardstock. This is quite nice. Quite lovely. Woo-hoo-hoo! I like that P. All right, that's a success, I think. Success. That makes me happy. That it's not a failure. It's not as smooth as Rhodia, which I like. I think Rhodia is nice to write on, but sometimes I feel like it's a little too smooth to feel my writing. I end up slipping, I think, if that makes sense. Good question, Yog-Saren. Sorry, my face cam isn't... Normally I try to show my whole arm. Today I'm using movement writing. The only time I use whole arm movement is if I do large groups of capitals sort of connected to each other. I used to do everything with whole arm, but now I use forearm movement for the majority of my writing. When we do like the Sig Sling and Sunday... Oh, bye Annie, thanks for hanging out. When we do Sig Sling and Sunday, some of those signatures require me to use whole arm for them. Ooh, that's a good question, Skeet. A proper test. I'm assuming so, because it's pretty thin, but let's test that theory. I have a folder up here. Is it this one? Sorry, I was organizing my desk space today, so I don't have a guide sheet down here right away. Oh, yeah, this folder. Nope. Where did I put it? Oh, it's right here. One of my standard guide sheets that is ink stains all over it because the guide sheet is not printed on a good piece of paper. Oh yeah, easily. Yep. Well, that's even more of a win. This has become, I know I've mentioned this before, but I have fallen in love with this new technique because I always use what I call a glide sheet, or just a little piece of paper. But because I always have to be, when I'm on camera and I need to be in frame, I've started just taping this to my desk. I know I've discussed this on stream before, but I love it because it sort of makes it so I always have an idea of the good angle, or the angle that I want to write at. It's nice. It's not as nice if I want to change my angle, but like if I want to just change as I'm writing. But I've become quite a fan of having this taped to my desk. Well, sweet. Yeah, this paper's not bad. I don't know if it's the best hairlines in the world. I should compare that real quick. Let's do just a slow dip, and we'll write the word hairline. Try to make them as fine as I can. Okay, so that's my hairline on this paper. Now let me try so this is then the Via Smooth paper that I usually write on. See how it looks. The hairlines on this one should be a little finer, but that's mainly because the paper is more textured. So yeah, we'll see if I can get a good comparison here. Hairline. I do prefer the hairlines of my Via Smooth paper, but that being said, the Via Smooth paper is a little bit more toothy, so you gotta be careful if you're using a really, really sharp nib like this one. I gotta be careful that I'm gonna catch lines. And really, the look of them, these don't look any less fine than these ones. I don't think. So, yeah, that's a win. Cool. Alright. Paper test number 2. Yeah, 50 degrees. 50 degrees is a good slant for ornamental penmanship. Not quite as extreme as the Mataraz's 48 average, and not quite as upright and formal as a traditional Spencerian 52. I naturally tend to write, I would say, if I'm not using a guide sheet and I'm just going, usually in the 48 to 50 range. I'm usually more angled than a 52. I train 52 because that's what Lupfers were. So I train to do 52, and then I go more slanted. I would prefer more slanted was a choice when I want to go more slanted, but I naturally write at around a 48 or a 50. I used to, all my guide sheets that I used to use, like this one's 52, but all my guide sheets that I used to make, Used to all be 48 because that's how I wrote naturally. So that's what I printed all my guides to be because it felt the most comfortable and the most natural. But then one day I decided to buckle down and train at 52 degrees, or to train myself to write better at 52 degrees. Slightly more upright, slightly more formal. Okay, next paper. Now this one, I was pretty sure the ivory or the cream was gonna be decent because it's cream paper. Now this one says the same thing, solid core. This is the craft paper by Recollections. It's still 24 pound. Everything should be the same, but it depends on the dye and whatnot. We'll see if the texture feels the same or not. Fingers crossed, because I feel like on this paper, white ink, oh, let me put a lid on my black ink so I don't make a mess. I feel like white ink on this craft paper could look really, really pretty. So everybody cross your fingers. Question is, does it feel like, yeah, because it's craft paper, no, craft paper with a K, so not actual like cheap craft paper, but I'm wondering if just the makeup of it makes it not quite as smooth as the other ones. Curious. My fingers are crossed. Gold ink would look really, I mean, black ink would look good too. Pretty much, so long as it's dark enough. I've been trying to find a dark paper that works really good with white ink that isn't like a black or like a super dark color. Like the Via Smooth that I use comes in a gray. It's not quite dark enough, unfortunately. I was hoping it was. But also it doesn't take ink that well, unfortunately, which it's one of those situations similar to what this might be, where it's really good paper, or it feels it's the right color, and it is the same model number and whatnot as other papers, but it just doesn't write the same. Like in Recollections in the 60 pound, the black takes ink really well, the navy blue, not as well, unfortunately. I have a stack of it just down there, and it was really unfortunate that I got both of them because I wanted to write on black and navy blue, and the navy blue just doesn't work as good. It works okay, but not as good. Alright, moment of truth. I am a fan. So far, anyways. Not the greatest hairlines when I'm not going fast, though. Let's compare that to if I write on the black real quick. Just some hairlines. Or is my nib misaligned all of a sudden? Oh, it might be actually. Those don't look good either. Okay, give me 2 seconds. I've never used a ton of Ziller inks. I know some people that really like them. I don't want to knock them as a brand, but I've never had a lot of success using them. I feel like if I had them and I were to find some form of mixture, either diluting them or something, I would potentially like them, but I've never been a huge fan of Ziller inks, personally. That being said, I haven't tried all of them. That's better. Okay, so that's what the hairline looks like on black. Now, what does it look like on the craft? Woohoo! I'm a fan. Nice. That makes me very happy. Yay. That's good. Right on, that makes me very, very happy. Now, I almost guarantee... Can you see lines through? No, definitely not. Maybe on a light board you could, but no, you can't see lines through the craft. Yeah, craft with white ink looks wonderful. It's not quite as smooth as the black, I think, because as you can see more of the like little particles and whatnot. It's not toothy. It just has a little bit more feedback than I think than the other two. But I mean, I had no snags or anything, and all the hairlines look equal thickness. I would use this for like, maybe I'll use this for like Christmas letters. That's beautiful. I'm very, very happy. Yay, Michaels. Not sponsored, obviously. But I think right now, and Michaels always has sales, obviously. But I think like I bought these 2 for 1. So if you check your local Michaels, they also have in the 24-pound. They have the only ones they sell in the 120 sheets per pack. There's a white, a cream, a craft, a black, and a red. So if you like writing on red paper, I'm not a huge fan of red in general. So I don't know why. So I won't be trying that one. But they also sell packs of like, I think it's like 6 or 7 shades of purple, 6 or 7 shades of blue, 6 or 7 shades of red, 6 or 7 shades of beige. In the 24-pound, my store only had like what was it, lavender, like the light purple. Thanks, Keith. In stock, so I didn't end up buying that. I was hoping they had the blue because I want to try out the navy blue. I wish I could buy 120 sheets of just the navy blue, but they don't offer that. Maybe one day, maybe if everybody goes out and buys this paper, Michaels will think, ooh, people like this paper, and they'll make/sell more. I don't know that we're a big enough community to affect what Michaels makes or sells, but it would make me happy if there were more color options to purchase. So I got a little bit of a snag there. I don't know if that was my fault or if, I mean, like I said, the paper is a little bit more textured, so I have to be careful. But I can get nice clean hairlines with it, which I'm a fan of. There was another little nib catch. Where is this paper based on? I don't know specifically what you mean, Cyril. Sorry. Hello, Shaq MD. Welcome, welcome. This paper is sold by Michaels, Michaels.com or Michaels. I don't know. I actually learned last week, or when I was in Germany. In Germany, you can't load the Michaels website. I tried in multiple cities I had like multiple friends' phones, my own phone, my computer. I couldn't load Michaels.com from Germany. It wouldn't let me. Because I was trying to see if we could order the paper to have it shipped there. But I believe it's made in China, distributed, well, it's distributed in the US and Canada for sure. I don't know where else Michaels sells it, but it is made in China. How's the white, Skeet? Is it similar to the black? And the ivory or the cream? I really wish the cream wasn't quite such a dark cream. It's a little too yellowy for me. I like my ivory or cream paper to be subtle. I really like the way that looks. Like I want to cut that out. I can't because there's other stuff around it, but this would be great for, yeah, for like specimens. Or does Michaels have? Now I kind of want to also get the 60-pound cardstock variety, and if it feels the same, this would be great for name cards. Yeah, it could. There's also, yeah, that is a good observation, Yog-Saren. It reminds me of, well, it's similar to, let me see if I can find it. Give me 2 seconds. I'll be right back. I don't think my headphones will reach. Gotta go up in the bookshelf real quick. Yeah. Is it this one? Yeah, this one. It's not the same color, but it reminds me of like the Strathmore tan color. It's a little bit, it's less yellow, but the same idea. You can see there, my white balance isn't making it quite as yellow. You can see it, my face cam shows the color a little bit more true. But it reminds me of that. This sketchbook that I got years ago and have never used because blank sketchbooks stress me out. I will one day. But it's a blank sketchbook. It stresses me out. I wrote in this little guy. So this is my pocket notebook, which I am super fan of. This little thing, Leuchtturm, my favorite notebook brand. Sorry, I know my camera's not focusing, but you don't need to have focus. I bought this almost a year ago to use. The plan was January 1st, 2023 to use it as sort of my commonplace or just pocket notebook to empty my brain into just to-do lists and random lists and stuff. Because I need to empty my brain constantly, ideas and things, so that my brain can think up new ideas and things. And then it was a blank journal, so it stressed me out. So I went almost an entire year without using it. And I kept it in my backpack. Like every day when I left, it was always in my bag. So I carried it around like I was supposed to, but I never actually used it until 2 days ago? 3 days ago? 2 days ago, I think. I wrote in it for the very first time. And now I'm very happy that I did, because now I will continue writing in it and I will use it for its intended purpose. Whoops, that's not an N. One day I'll learn to not make spelling mistakes. Or pay attention to what I'm actually writing. Oh, I have a huge blank notebook syndrome, Peter. It's intense. It's bad. Like, really bad. People buy me notebooks and stuff as gifts, and I feel bad because I don't use them, and I want to use them. I have a box under my bed full of journals. I need to start giving them to friends, because I will never fill them all. The only journal I'll really use now, probably, is, well, for at least the foreseeable future, is this little one. Because I like the form factor. I used to have a Moleskine that I used a number of years ago. That it had everything in it. It was amazing. Yes, Marilyn, only one box. I'm not nearly as bad as some of the other people on the internet. I know I heard, what is it, in like the Anderson Pens podcast, they did one of their contests once was people had to say how many blank journals they had, and woofty, some people's numbers were, they made me feel better about my one box. No, sorry, I can see it. It's right. I can literally see it. It's right under my piano. For Christmas, my mom made me an octopus journal, and she did the art on the cover, and it's very beautiful and very nice. But no, Mom, I have not used that one yet. That's not one I will give away to somebody, because that's not a manufactured journal. I have that. I can see it. It's right over there. But nope, I haven't used it yet. I haven't used any journal in, well over a year, until I just wrote in my first one a couple days ago. I even got like my specific pen that I was gonna write in this one. I know I've told you guys before about this little pen. At least I think I've mentioned this little pen before. It's a Uniball 1, but it has a Uniball Signo refill, and the colored ends only come in the white barrel. So technically I had to buy 3 pens to put them together to make this one pen. And I have like the red one, navy one, black one, and a bunch of other colors as well. But hello, Manish. Welcome. Happy New Year to you as well. Ooh, you know what I just realized about this paper as well? It might be dark enough that it would look really good under blacklight. I normally use the Rhodia gray paper, but this might look really good under the black light. I unfortunately cannot test that today because my black light is not working. I don't think there's anything wrong with the light, but my smart plug is not working. I tried to turn it on earlier, so I have to assess that situation and fix that plug. I think it might have just got disconnected from the Wi-Fi while I was gone. For some reason. Oh, I really enjoy the way writing looks on this paper. This makes me very happy. Because it's different. It looks so subtle and nice and different. That's not how you spell different. How you spell different. Jeepers. Yes, I have, young Saren. A lot of those Sickles pieces use like some use like a grayish or a beigeish paper. Well, now that I have this paper, maybe I'll make some stuff like that. Because you can do some really cool, like, I guess, white shading using white colored pencils. Could be really cool. I gotta make a section line piece one of these days. What about black ink? We can test some black ink. I was just enjoying. I wasn't intending to keep writing on this one. I was just really enjoying the way it looks. I'm quite taken and happy. I remember my reaction when I just, on a whim, bought the Michaels paper, or the black paper, the first time. Because I was just curious if it would work good, and I never expected to find my favorite black paper at Michaels. Thank you, Michaels. Conveniently right down the street. How about black? A little bit. It's harder to see. Oh, almost dipped into my whiting. Dangerous. It's harder to see on the camera than it is in real life. But it's not quite as striking in real life. It does look good though. Yes, that's true. Mom? Yeah, I mean, I think that's why companies started making those, like that 10 sketchbook I brought out, because you can get some really cool shading effects that I mean, it's just opposite of what we're used to seeing with shading on white paper or ivory paper. So it works really good as well with the black ink. I'm not as big a fan of the black ink, but that's 100% just a personal preference thing. I think if I didn't use white ink on it, I would like the black ink more. But I think just because I like the white ink so much, I am a fan of the white ink more. But the black works good. Right on. Hooray for successful paper testing. I'll put it back to white ink now. Oops, paper moved. The red paper feels good. The only issue is I'm not a fan of... I don't see myself ever writing on red paper. Maybe I'm wrong? I guess actually what this paper reminds me of, and we don't have this store in Canada, which made me sad when I moved back here. But for those of you in the US who have Paper Source, I feel like Paper Sources... They have the wall of all the different shades of colors paper. The big difference is the Paper Source paper is a little bit thicker. But I feel like, as far as writing, like you can get craft in the Paper Source paper. You can get this color and it probably looks very similar. And you can get envelopes and everything in the colors. I just think this is thinner paper than what Paper Source sells. But color-wise... This is very much reminds me of that. It's amazing how... Oh, the red paper would be good for Christmas, that's true. It fascinates me the sort of the mental trickery that happens when, like, if I write with just random ink, random nib, random paper, the writing is decent. The writing experience is decent. It's enjoyable. It's nice. But when I use, I don't want to call them better tools, but when I use tools that I like more, like if I sharpen or if I tune a nib and it feels a little bit better for me, or if I'm using a paper that gives me a really good hairline, or the combination of paper ink and nib is working really well and the hairline is really beautiful, my writing gets better. Not because of the tools, but because of I try to write better, meaning I try to relax more and I put more into the experience, I think, when the tools feel good and make me happy. If that makes sense. Because it's not, I could make the writing look just as good on less good, less awesome tools, or with less awesome tools. But there's something about writing with good tools, there's something about the way it makes you feel. Do I ever use overlay papers? I don't know what an overlay paper is. Cyril, my apologies. I feel like I should know what an overlay paper is, and I feel like I'm just being stupid. Overlay papers. Could you describe overlay paper for me? Like marker paper? Like the somewhat see-through, like tracing paper? Oh. Okay, yeah, like, tracing papers, I guess I've used them when putting together complicated pieces before. When like doing, I guess, layout paper and stuff like that. I've used them for that purpose. I often find most tracing papers, I don't know how to describe sort of what the surface feels like. It's almost like a hard coated surface. So even though it's textured a little bit, like it's not super smooth like Rhodia, but the nib never snaps on it because it's almost like doesn't feel like paper. It feels like it's like a clear sheet of plastic almost. And that experience, or that, it never really feels great. But then on the other side, there are like the really thin papers. For example, there's like no, not they smudge, they feel weird to write on. But now I'm trying to think of what's the paper that I can't think of that the company closed, what, like a couple years ago? Tomato River. Not Tomato River, sorry. Tomoe River. Sorry, my friend Eric calls it Tomato River. Shout out to Eric. But like Tomoe River paper, for example, I know a lot of fountain pen users love it. Um, and there are papers similar, like in similar thickness to or thinness to Tomoe River, that use that you can get writing paper and practice paper. I've taught workshops before in other countries where that or the paper they print the handouts on is that thinness of paper, and or what they end up writing on or putting over our guide sheets is paper like that. And my issue is when I apply weight to it, like when I apply for a shade, it moves. Like it wants, because it's so thin, it wants to pull and it wants to move around, which I am very much not a fan of. I love Tomoe River paper, but not for shaded writing. Yeah, I don't like the surface of the paper to move when I'm writing. I really like this combination of paper and ink. This makes me happy. Oops. Gotta be careful. It is somewhat snappy paper. Ah, we were actually talking about that at Mont Blanc, because there are some fountain pens that when you write, like, I guess for a calligrapher, singing feels like we get the scratchiness that a lot of people really like. But there's some fountain pens, maybe this is what you're talking about, Cyril, actually. Some fountain pens will almost like, squeak is the wrong word, but they sing. They get like a tone when you write on paper at a certain speed, which is fascinating. The M800 broad nib sings like Elvis. Ooh, that's fun. Can't say that I have any singing fountain pen nibs. Primarily because all of my fountain pen nibs have been ground to be insanely sharp. So they don't sing, they scratch. I wonder if that's something pen manufacturers do intentionally. If they can add focals to a nib. The feedback is nice. I like just enough feedback. I want to feel my writing. It's important. Less about hearing it from me, but I need to feel it. Otherwise, I feel like I get out of control. Oh, I keep letting my guard down with this paper. It is a little snappy with this nib. Ooh, wait, I need to test something in a second. Ah. That was my own fault. Nib angle was all out of whack. I wouldn't call that a bad habit. Cyril, do you have a favorite vintage pen? Or if we pick like a specific brand, if we say Waterman, do you have a favorite Waterman? Like the 52 or the 52.5 V? Or, yeah, do you have a favorite? I'm assuming yes, but I don't know. Many of you probably know already, but I'll say it anyways. I mean, buying, collecting, restoring vintage pens, if it wasn't for vintage fountain pens, I would have never joined the penmanship world. Vintage pens were what got me into writing in the first place. I was a fountain pen collector and restorer before I did any writing at all. So I'm obviously very thankful to vintage pens. Oh, bedtime for Marilyn. A purple nib. Which one is the purple nib? I don't remember the attributes. I'm only really familiar with the red and the pink. Good night, Marilyn. Thanks for hanging out. Sleep well. Happy Thanksgiving again to you. Oh, Shaq. What course/program do I recommend for learning perfect Spencerian? I'm gonna ask you to specify, Shaq. Do you want to learn like by the book Spencerian, or do you want to learn like ornamental penmanship, like more of like what I'm doing today? Like, I only asked that because you said perfect Spencerian like me, and what I'm doing now, I wouldn't really consider perfect Spencerian. It's based in Spencerian forms, but it's more of an ornamental penmanship. Ornamental penmanship, okay. So, as a teacher, who has courses from time to time. Um, I should tell you to sign up for a course and to follow a course, but honestly, I feel like the best way, um, I think the best way is to find a book that sort of resonate that you really like, that is ornamental penmanship. Um, like for me, that is the breakdown of the letter forms in PZ Blozer's Lessons in Ornamental Penmanship. And then my favorite way of learning is not so much in a course-based atmosphere. My favorite way of learning is I like following the book. I like constantly referencing a book and trying to replicate the thing from the book, the letter forms. I never did in my practice. I do more so now, somewhat, but still not a ton compared to a lot of penmen. I don't do a lot of replicating whole pieces and stuff. Yeah, I would say to find a book and to practice what you see in that book. Um, and then if there are courses that you see where somebody's offering something that is in line with what that book is showing you, then to take the course to get sort of corrections, because the corrections are sort of they can be really helpful. I guess the best thing for anybody who wants to learn penmanship in general is I hope I've said this before, I think, but it's we train our eye as we get better. Like, everybody says study as much as you practice because you have to have the good mental image of what you're creating and whatnot. But for me, it's about having the super critical eye, and you can't have it right away. As you get better, your eye's gonna get better as your hand improves. You'll start to see more things that you wouldn't have seen like months earlier when you got started. But the important part there, and this is where I feel like I won't say a lot of people do it wrong, because it's not wrong, it's just different than the way I sort of train myself. And I'm not the best penman in the world, but the way I like to train and the way I like to encourage people to train is to remove the negative aspect of critique. I am insanely critical of my own work and of other people's work as well, because it's just my eye is trained to be super critical of what I see in design and not just in writing, but sort of just in general. But the negative aspect of the things that need to be critiqued is sort of gone. Critique isn't negative. When I see, I really enjoy penmanship. When I say at the end of stream, fall in love with the process, that's not just like a catch thing that I say at the end of my stream. I genuinely, to my core, believe that if you fall in love with the process, you will fall in love with doing it. And then as you see things that aren't correct, it's less, oh, I did that wrong, and more, oh, I noticed something that I didn't do exactly correct, so now I can try to do it better. I can try to do it better. I'm not fixing what I did wrong, because I didn't do anything wrong. I unlocked something, I see something I didn't see before, and now I have the opportunity to practice more and to try to fix that one thing. So then you're never cutting yourself down and critiquing your own work and be like, oh, I'm no good. No, you see the work, and then if you enjoy working on the work, that's sort of the tough part, I think. If you can trick yourself to fall in love with doing it, then eventually your eye's gonna get better and you're gonna want to do it better, and that want to do it better will make you improve. It has to. There's really no way for it not to. Now, different people improve at different rates and stuff like that. And this is where teacher or a mentor or something can come into play where they can sort of point out those few things, or those like little things like, oh, what about this? And then you can then see those and you can work on fixing those things or changing those things so they look more like the ideal model that you're trying to recreate. That was a really long-winded answer to your question. I apologize, but I can't recommend like a specific course or something because there is no like school. If we had a Zenarian school of penmanship that you could sign into and do like a whole whole course program for a long time, then I would say go do that. If I had a course like that you could sign up for that was like a long-term type of thing, then I would recommend that. But I don't have that. Am I working on that? Slowly, yes, but it doesn't exist yet. So I can't recommend something like that. So I recommend finding a book and just go through it and try to do, like as they say in the book, master each thing before you move on to the next one, and then balance your super like disciplined, focused practice time and then your playtime. The more focused study time you do, the better and faster you're gonna get, or the faster you're gonna get better. But for me, the playtime is super important. The name of that book, so Lessons in Ornamental Penmanship by P.Z. Blozer is my favorite book. There's also the Lessons in Ornamental Penmanship by C.P. Zahner. It's sort of a variation of the same book. They were both produced by Zahner Blozer. It just has different insights. Purple is the most flex nib, keyhole nib, as what? Are you sure, Cyril? Because the most famous, I would say, is the pink nib. In my thought of the colored nibs of that collection, because the pink nib had the longest tines and was the most flexible, with the exception of, as Yogg-Saron mentioned, the rare, ever so sought after black nib. Which the unfortunate thing about the black nib is, to my knowledge, there was the black nib and the artist nib, the two nibs that were part of the color line but weren't like the main ones. They are the rarest ones. They had the longer tines, they had thinner tines, and everybody wants one. The unfortunate part about like the artist nib, for example, it didn't say the word black on it. It didn't say artist, it didn't say black. You just knew it by, well, the packaging that came in the box or the look of the nib. A lot of people think they've found a Waterman artist nib, but a lot of them are not Waterman artist nibs. It's an extremely rare and highly sought after nib. I would love to own one one day. Ah, got you. Sorry, I didn't see your correction there. Yeah, pink are quite expensive. In the number 7 Red Ripple. But for good reason. I mean, they're beautiful. I'm curious here. Oja Swinny, are you leaving already? Oja Swinny, how you gonna come in the chat? You haven't chatted all night and you're gonna come in here at the end and give me a hard time for leaving? Now, what is this gonna look like? I wanted to try this. This is navy, dark blue ink. Oh, but yeah. I was worried that this might be the case. It just looks black. I was thinking navy would look like a blue would look really good on the gray, but this navy, this dark blue is too dark for the beige paper. What does it look like on this paper here? Yeah, the black nib it's insanely scarce. Yeah, it was. I mean, that was my grail hunt for many years. The black nib and the artist nib, they're effectively the same thing. The black nib was the artist nib. If you find, I mean, they're mostly seen in like a Waterman safety pen is what you'd see them in most often. But again, will you see one? Probably not. A lot of people think they have a Waterman artist nib, but not the case. The Waterman artist nib's tines were crazy long. Super long, super thin. I would love to have one day, but I probably never will. Whoa! What kind of a stem? That's better. It's amazing how much easier this stroke is to do when it's not right after a stem. It's 100% brain, it's mental. But when I do it standalone, it always comes out better than when it comes after a stem. Can't really see the navy on the screen either. You can see it a little bit in person, but it's pretty dark. I was hoping that was going to be a little more visible on the beige, but that's okay, or on the craft. Or when the hairline's dry, maybe it'll look better when it dries. The shade isn't dry yet, but look at the hairlines. Will the camera show it? It doesn't look... Oh, it just looks black on camera. It doesn't look terrible. It looks more like a really faded blue-black ink, I guess. Not what I was going for. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Cyril. That's too bad. Maybe you'll get lucky again one day. Yeah, that's very... Yeah, the blue dries a lot lighter than the black. Doesn't look bad when the hairline's dry, but yeah. That's a great blue ink. It was made for me by Posaka when I was in Indonesia. Bram from Posaka came by and gave me a navy and a burgundy ink. Do I have the burgundy here? What would that look like on this? Is this it? Let's give it a shot. Since it happens to be on my desk right now. These are the 4 inks that are pretty much always on my desk. At any given time, there be a white, a McCaffrey's black, my navy, and my burgundy. I don't use the navy and burgundy as much, but they're still always here. Uh-oh. Mold. That happens. And I don't have any Q-tips. Uh-oh. I have to go get a Q-tip. I'll be right back. Oof. 500 pounds. More than that. That's a lot for a nib. I will be right back. Hang tight. Have returned. Oh yeah, there are plenty of, just in response to you, Yogsaren, there are plenty of Waterman nibs that are more flexible than the pink nib. The pink nib was cool just because it was the keyhole and it was on the number 7 pen. But the, I mean, there are tons of Waterman number 2s that are more flexible and finer than the pink nib. The pink nib was just, yeah, it was a marketing thing, and it is the finest and most flexible of the number 7, of the Waterman number 7 color series. Ugh. It's always gross when you get mold. Sorry, I'm not doing this on camera. Bummer. I always say if you get mold on your ink, in your ink, it just means you don't write enough. Which is the case here. I don't use the burgundy nearly enough. Come on, the mold dots. Get out of my ink, you don't belong. Okay. I'd have to... that didn't work. My hands are getting all inky. I hate getting ink on my hands. Almost there. Do I have any recommendations for pens to write/draw on walls? Like removable, or you want it to be permanent? This is substantially slowed down the stream. We call this week's stream Mold Removal with Mike. Funny when it comes to mold in ink, if it gets really moldy, it's easy, it's good, because you can just sort of scoop it up all in one and then it's done. But when it's like just starting, then it breaks up on the surface and it's no good. You have 4 number 7s. Nice. Yes, I like maybe Todd. Waterman was my main, that was the main pen that I collected though. The Waterman 52.5 was my favorite of the sizes. Because it was as long as a regular 52, but it was narrower, and I liked the narrow feel. Okay, that took forever. Now we see how it looks. Can't remember if I'm supposed to stir this ink or not. I never recall. That's a pretty nice color on here. It's quite dark. Kind of looks like, it looks like blood a little bit when it dries, when it's on this paper, because it dries darker than it does on a lighter paper. Doesn't really look like blood, I guess. Kinda. But you don't want to use brushes. In that case, I would recommend using, well, here, I will show you what I recommend actually. Because you can, I mean, there'll be plenty of markers that you could use to do it, but if you want to have control of the kind of paint that you're using, I would recommend if you can even still get these. I don't know if you can. Find it. Where is it? Montana made Are they not in here? What the heck? So it's, I mean, essentially it's this, but a larger version of this. I don't know where mine is. Yeah, Montana makes these. So this was blank, was empty, and then I filled it with a paint. And then it's a regular paint marker, but you can buy them empty and then fill them with whatever paint you want. But if you want to paint your house, you could also try to just find graffiti markers that are the right, well, I don't know what paint you would want to put on your wall. I was specifically using paint that I could clean off of windows, but the larger one, the reason I liked it, and I can't find it now, I don't know where it is, it must be in a different case, or I lost it, but it came with, I could purchase replaceable tips, and I liked them because they were round. They weren't like a chisel tip like most graffiti markers kind of are. They had big, nice round tips, so I could do large Spencerian and have the excuse me, contrast look correct. But I don't know where my big ones are. Unless I wore them out at some point. I don't know. I had some. But yeah, graffiti markers, I mean, any brand of graffiti markers, Montana, Molotov, any brand will be good. You just test them out and play with them. Well, I'm quite pleased with this beige paper. Or craft paper, I should say. Good night, Mom. Oh, if you don't need large writing, then honestly, any paint marker. I don't have enough writing on wall experience to give you proper recommendations for any of that stuff, unfortunately. Sorry. what kind of things you're gonna paint on it. Curious. You're breaking it up into 4-foot panels. That's a lot of space to do a lot of cool stuff. Is each square gonna be like something different, or is it gonna be all writing? Alright, Peter, thanks for hanging out. You stayed on longer than I thought you were gonna tonight. Putting in some late hours today. Four-foot panel in the middle and 2 1-foot panels on each side. Nice. That makes sense. You got a party for Thanksgiving. Do it while you can. Figure out how to make this shade bigger without it going so far to the left. I need control. Ooh, mandala art would be good. That's a good idea. Schmott. Oops. All right. It is 11:30. And I am going to end our stream here tonight. to Oja Sweeney complaining now. Ooh, a big clock. That'd be cool. Nice. You'll have to send us lots of photos when you get it done. Yup, we're gonna call the stream here a close tonight. I gotta put some more coats of clear coat on some desk boards before I go to bed tonight. My night is not finished. Thank you very much for hanging out with me today, everybody. This was a blast. It's really good to be back. We'll be back again on next Tuesday. Trying to think if you have any ideas. As always, drop them in the comments below for this video. If there's things you guys want to specifically do, or if I can just do what I always do and just kind of come in here and practice and hang out. I might think of some things that I want to work on next week, specifically to have somewhat of a theme or something. But I'm very happy today that our paper testing was successful. The cream paper was all right. Not a huge fan, but it looks okay. I will use it. But I am very much a fan of this craft paper. I do have to be a little careful, as I mentioned, because it's a little bit on the snappy side. But if I can be light enough, I love the way it looks. And it is a joy to write on. Once my black light works again, once I figure out what's going on with that smart plug, I will test it out. And everybody cross your fingers for me that the beige paper works really good with black lighting, because it would be nice to have a relatively cost-effective paper that I can use for our blacklight lives and not go through all of my expensive Rhodia pads. Yeah, thanks again for hanging out with me today, everybody. Make sure that you are falling in love with this process, and don't forget that life should be just a bit of silliness, really. Good night. See you guys next week.